So, you've got yourself a brand new dartboard. Awesome. But let's get it on the wall the right way. We're going to go beyond just, hanging it up. We are setting this thing to official tournament standards, so every single throw you make is legit. Look, I get it. You've got the board, you've got the darts, and you're just itching to start peppering that triple 20. But hold on a second. Before you even think about throwing for the bullseye, the most crucial part of your game is getting this setup absolutely perfect. All right, here's your first magic number, 1.73 meters, or, if you prefer, 5 feet 8 inches. This one, it's completely non-negotiable. You're going to want to burn this number into your brain.
And here's the second key number, 2.37 meters, or 7 feet 9¼ inches. This is the classic distance, the one you'll see at the PDC World Championships. But, as we're about to find out, this one can sometimes change. So, let's dive in, shall we? These two measurements, they're the bedrock, the whole foundation for a pro-level setup right in your own home. If you can get these right, believe me, you're well on your way. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the perfect setup, talk about the universal rule for height, then the variable rule for distance. We'll even look at some special cases for different players, and finish up by defining the whole play area. Let's get to it.
First things first, the height. Now, this is the easy part. Why? Because it never, ever changes. It's pretty much the one constant in the entire world of darts. And here's the detail that really matters. The measurement is from the floor, straight up to the absolute dead center of the bullseye. Not the top of the board, not the bottom, but the very middle of that little red circle. And this really shows you how fundamental this rule is. It makes no difference if you're playing on a classic bristle board or a fancy electronic one. The height is always going to be 1.73 meters. End of story. Okay, so how do you actually nail this? It's simple. First, make a mark on your wall at exactly 1.73 meters high. That's where you want the bullseye to be. Now, to find where the screw goes, just measure your board's radius, that's half its width, and add that distance above your mark, that's your hanging point. Easy. All right, let's talk about the throwing distance. Now, unlike the height, this measurement isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It actually depends on what type of board you're playing on. And the big difference here is between your traditional sisal boards, the kind the pros use on TV, and the electronic soft tip boards. Each one has its own official throwing distance. And you can see the difference right here. For traditional boards, it's 2.37 meters, but for electronic boards, you actually get a little more room, 2.44 meters, or exactly 8 feet. So it's really important you know which one you need for your setup. Now listen up, because this is the number one mistake people make. It's a really simple error that can throw your entire setup out of whack. And it all has to do with the board's thickness, which is usually around 3 to 5 centimeters. So here's the deal. You have to measure from the front face of the board, where the dart actually hits, not from the wall behind it. If you measure from the wall, you're going to be throwing from too close. So here's a pro tip. Hang the board first, then measure your distance out along the floor. So we've covered the main rules, right? Now let's just quickly touch on a few special cases that people often ask about, like the rules for women and for kids. In darts, the physical advantages between men and women are pretty much non-existent, so the rules are generally the same for everybody. That said, some local leagues do offer a slightly shorter throw line for women, maybe down to 2.32 meters, but that's definitely the exception, not the rule. Now for kids, the rules are way more flexible, to keep it fun. The throwing distance is often shortened to about 2.13 meters, or 7 feet. And for the height, here's the trick. Just place the bullseye at the child's eye level. A good rule of thumb is to just subtract about 5 centimeters from their height. This gives them the exact same view as an adult on a regulation board. A perfect setup is so much more than just the board on the wall. You've got to define the entire playing area, and that starts with the single most important line in all of darts, the Oche. The Oche is just a fancy word for the throw line, and you can mark it with something as simple as a piece of duct tape. If you want something a bit more permanent, a raised bar of wood or metal works great. Or, hey, you can go all out with a professional darts mat. It has the line built right in, and it protects your floor. Win-win. Okay, this is a huge rule for anyone who wants to play competitively. Your feet have to stay behind the edge of the Oche. But, and this is key, you're totally allowed to lean your upper body over the line as far as you want. If you watch the pros, they use this lean to shave precious inches off their throw. And finally, let's talk about safety and space. You'll want about 1.5 meters of clear space on either side of the dartboard. And keep anyone watching at least 2 meters behind the throw line. Oh, and seriously, think about getting a wall protector or a surround. Trust me, it will save your walls from those stray darts. Phew, okay, that was a lot of information, I know. So let's do a super quick recap of the absolute must-know numbers you need for your perfect dartboard setup. Here it is, your cheat sheet. The height is always 1.73 meters to the bowl. The distance is 2.37 meters for traditional boards, 2.44 for electronic. And the Oche rule? Keep your feet behind the line, but leaning forward is totally fair game. So there you have it. You're no longer just hanging a dartboard on the wall. You're creating a regulation playing field, which means the only question left is, what are you aiming for on your first throw? The bullseye, or are you going to start things off on that beautiful triple 20? Game on.